to say 7 total between both
Seven
players.
proxies every game?
No. Well, yeah, one per game.
Or
Yeah.
7 proxies in one game?
Well, okay, so 7 proxies over the course of the entire series. So sometimes we'll have 2, sometimes we'll have 0.
Okay.
Right?
All right, yeah. I can
It's
get
kind of
behind
spread
that.
out. All right, good.
Spawning in the bottom left-hand side of the map. It's SpeCial.
And spawning in the top right, it's FanTaSy.
We've got ourselves what should be a fantastic TvT, really anyone's game. Both these players won their series. FanTaSy, I'll say, a little bit more convincingly than SpeCial. SpeCial had to work for his, and well, it's not like FanTaSy didn't, but you know what I'm saying. It was a bit longer games and whatnot. Now, TvT, though, a completely different beast. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys size each other up. FanTaSy getting up that second gas right out the gate. We'll see if SpeCial follows suit or not.
Yeah, this SCV can just regular old scouting path here on Automaton up towards FanTaSy's base, then decides to change his mind entirely. Maybe checking for proxies. Not that this is a proxy scouting path
And
here.
you can't blame him playing versus FanTaSy.
Yeah, very smart. You want to do that. And so far, there's nothing to find, but I really can't blame him for doing it. So there's our first Reaper on the way for both these players now.
Yeah, so FanTaSy just going for the standard double gas, but then SpeCial going. I mean, both these builds are very standard that they're doing. And SpeCial, though, just scouting out. I like it if you're going to go for a CC first. Make sure you're not or a Reaper expand. Make sure you're not getting proxied. So
yeah,
very respectable choice by him to do that. And just showing that, yeah, he'll take it's a slight risk to go for a Reaper expand in TvT, but then it also comes down to preference. And SpeCial just showing that he's confident doing that, whereas FanTaSy wanting to go for that heavy aggression. And
indeed,
okay, there's one.
Yeah,
we need a counter.
See? One.
Okay.
Can we put it on the screen?
We could just put it on the scoreboard instead of best of 7. It'll just be amount of proxies or whatever.
How many proxies each player has done?
Feel as if FanTaSy's is going to be a little bit higher, but SpeCial's still scouting out with his Reaper too. I feel a little bit bad for him, but in the dark about this. We'll see what's going to be coming out of FanTaSy. I mean, it could always be something like a Banshee or just a Liberator, but
I'm feeling Liberator. Yeah, Liberator.
Yeah. Banshees are a bit more of a commitment just because they take so much longer to come on out. And we'll see. FanTaSy is going to be bringing the heat here.
Yeah, SpeCial continuing to make Marines, which is good. He's going to need some anti-air versus this Liberator for sure. Both players kind of setting up defensively on their own positions with their 2 Marines, Hellion and Reaper. And just waiting for the Liberator to come out and kind of break this stalemate we're looking at right now. FanTaSy is getting a tech lab up back home on one of his barracks, which could just be swapped over to the factory. Actually, no, that is on the factory, so probably going to see some tank play. Or Cyclone. I forget that Tech Lab is Cyclone now these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit interesting how it's like that. Now, we're seeing that sort of Reaper Hellion skirmish. FanTaSy gets off a pretty nice shot, but so far it seems SpeCial may have enough to hang on. However, this Liberator back at home causing a lot of chaos. And SpeCial, he didn't go for a quick Cyclone or anything like that, so he needs his Marines to defend this. He's finally going to get on it, but 7 units have died. It's now Reapers versus Hellions. It's tough to say, but looks like SpeCial will defend on that front, trying to save his last Hellion, but not quite able to. Lets it stay there. And as we look at this, I mean, FanTaSy, his own CC is going to be finishing up. He managed to kill off enough workers that he's got himself a bit of a lead, so I mean, it's going to be sort of even from the seam of things.
Yeah, I'd say that FanTaSy is up at this point just because of the number of workers he was able to pick off. He's ahead that way. And SpeCial really can't, I guess he is sending his Hellions over. I was going to say he can't do much, but that's a pretty undefended natural. Although there's a Cyclone there, ready to rock if necessary. So they dive right into that mineral line. There's an idle SCV there. Are they really fighting this? I don't know about that. There's your
get
tank.
out of there. Yeah, FanTaSy doesn't want to be taking losses like that, and suddenly SpeCial got himself right tied up in the worker count. And, okay, now SpeCial deciding to go for a cloaked Banshee. And FanTaSy, on the other hand, just getting up a Viking back at home, getting up his extra barracks. So it looks like he will definitely be playing bio. There's always the possibility that we could be seeing some bio versus Mech in this, but for now, SpeCial making no definitive choice. But I mean, both these guys, I think they're mainly bio players.
Sure seems like it. I really haven't seen SpeCial go Mech all that much. He seems to like the mobility that bio affords him. So setting up pretty defensively, there is FanTaSy. He's got his Marines, he's got his tanks, he's working on Stim. Just really trying to get that tank count up. Banshee sneaking on over. Cloak is just about done. 14 seconds to go on that upgrade, and we'll see how FanTaSy responds to the Cloak Banshee showing up in his base.
FanTaSy doesn't even have enough energy for a scan, so this could be very problematic. There's also going to be a Hellion drop going from the back for SpeCial, so it's looking like he's got the possibility to get a lot of damage done. Cyclone's going to be cleaning up a Hellion on the front, but this is just a bit of a distraction. The Banshee now flies on in. FanTaSy's got an engineering bay building, but the cloaked Banshee is here now, and the Hellions are going to be unloading in the back, so this could actually just be game-ending damage getting done here. FanTaSy's got to react perfectly as Marines are moving in to chase back the Banshee, but there's the Hellions getting shots off, and all these SCVs are lining up here.
That's a lot of dead SCVs. 9 dead SCVs. We'll give it a 10. Does get cleaned out. So it's only 10 there, but the Banshee sneaking back in, takes down the SCV building, that missile turret, and might finish off the turret as well.
Oh, a lot of these SCVs are also injured. That Banshee can just pick them all off. Just one shot here and there. And this is just so much damage getting done by SpeCial.
Yeah, this Banshee's doing work. However, Cloak runs out, and bam. I guess turret was up as well.
Oh, another Banshee also just escapes. Actually, still in the scan range, but FanTaSy's just taking so much damage this game. Meanwhile, as this is going on, SpeCial's getting up a third CC. 50 to 22 workers. FanTaSy, he's a dead nerd. And I don't think...
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it sure seems like it. If you're 53 to 24 workers.
I mean, he's going to have Stim, whereas SpeCial doesn't, so maybe there's a chance he can make something happen. He's going to have Combat Shield as well, but he's got to be all in here, and SpeCial probably quite aware that FanTaSy wants to get something done. If FanTaSy can maybe get like in the main base or something, but he needs to get a lot of work done.
I mean, he's trying. He's got a pretty decent here, the same size as SpeCial's, however. SpeCial can defend. His tank spread is good. He's got 3 of them there. Is he making another one? He is making another one that's almost out. Vikings there, a Raven in there to interfere and disable one of the tanks if necessary. I don't know if there's a good place for FanTaSy to come in here.
Yeah, this is just a beautiful spread defensively for SpeCial, even a missile turret in the main base. FanTaSy's going to try and drop with his Marines, but these tanks are really just going to cover everything. FanTaSy's going to unload his Marines here. We'll see if they can get anything done, but he only has these 2 medivacs, so his tanks on the low ground are not going to help out. I mean, these tanks for SpeCial are just going to slaughter these Marines. SpeCial, without Stim, I mean, his units are a little bit worse, but he's just got such an advantage at this point. Tanks cleaning up those Marines in his main base. FanTaSy scanning. Oh, if he gets Stim, that would be nice. SpeCial's actually really trying to save this. Going to use his Raven, disable his tanks, land the Vikings. Not able to clean this up just yet, though. Going to actually micro these Vikings. That's pretty cute. Gets the 2 tanks, though, and with that, that really does shut it down.
Yeah, 35 to 21 army supply. There's a little bit of stuff here down at the bottom of FanTaSy. He might try to drop back in, but he just got scanned. He's going to send additional Marines down here, but it's 60 to 35 workers right now. FanTaSy is making SCVs back home. Maybe he's just trying to delay long enough to catch up in economy. I mean, SpeCial, the more SCVs he makes, he's oversaturated. He's not making great use of the workers that he's making, and there's no sign of him floating out of third base either.
Yeah. Now, Medivac going to unload at the back. FanTaSy's got to keep trying to get something done. I mean, he's still in this game. He's given it all he's got. He gets 3 workers, but he loses the Medivac, loses all those units, and down on supply. I mean, he's going to keep dropping and trying to find anything that he can. He's starting up his 3rd CC on location, so I mean, he's given it the good old college try, but Yeah, we'll see. I mean, SpeCial still just playing it very cautious. Note how he hasn't expanded to his third base up until now, so he's just been playing it very safe. And oh, FanTaSy gets on in, trying to get 2 tanks, but trades out 2 medivacs worth of Marines for 1.
Yep, not ideal at all. Third base is now landing for SpeCial, or third base is on the way from FanTaSy. The thing is, if SpeCial just sits back here and waits, it's not going to go well for him. He needs to push out. FanTaSy's expanding up third base, and that counts. There we go.
GG.
SpeCial ends up taking game number 1 in this best of 7. Looking pretty good doing it, too. Yeah, that cloaked Banshee harass was fantastic. The Hellions moved in was very good, too. And then FanTaSy just couldn't recover from it at that point. He did his best. He tried to keep the pressure on, tried to expand back home. He did everything right, but then SpeCial just defended really well. Almost perfectly there. Did lose a few units, and then the counterattack with the drop, and FanTaSy had no answer for it. So GG SpeCial taking game number 1 here of this best of 7. It is a best of 7. We have a ways to go. But
yes,
SpeCial looking pretty good so far.
We're still getting a bit of that Discord lag.
Yeah, I'm hearing it from you too. I wonder if it is just Discord.
Here, hold on. Let me just quickly check their Twitter. They'll probably have tweeted out or whatever if their server room's on fire or something.
Yeah. I mean, packet loss is around 0.7%, it says, which should be fine. We're on US West, which is both of us. I think. Do they have a Canada West server?
Yeah. So, it's a bit odd. I don't know. Okie dokie. So we've got FanTaSy and SpeCial into the lobby once more, and looks like they're both ready to go, so we'll get on into it. Hope everyone's having a wonderful evening or morning, wherever you are. Okay, here we are. It's a best of 7. And he got himself the first map, spawning down the bottom left-hand side of the map. It is SpeCial.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of the... Oh, top right-hand corner, blah, blah, blah. The Red Terran player, FanTaSy.
All right. So we've got ourselves a best of 7. So, I mean, SpeCial being up 1 map isn't that big of a deal for FanTaSy, but, I mean, we'll see if he can tie it up in this one. Like, that last game, it's just FanTaSy played aggressive, didn't really get enough done, and then it was really just that counter-aggression that kind of mounted up, and then once the Banshee came on in, that was pretty much it. If you're unprepared for a Banshee, it's usually rough goings for a Terran player.
Yeah, it definitely was a multi-step process for SpeCial to win that game, and every step was executed just well enough to where he got that win. SCV for SpeCial gets a little bit of aggression off there.
Yeah, SpeCial's SCV, a very angry SCV.
That guy, FanTaSy, getting some revenge.
It's just an SCV brawl. New meta, only SCVs.
Worker rush. I'm down.
I remember I was watching the streamer Ruff, and he literally would just like pro brush. He'd use Chrono Boost to get, because Protoss builds like their first 1 or 2 workers a little bit quicker. Yeah. Then you just micro the probes. He'd Chrono Boost it. I mean, of course, it's not a common strategy for a reason, but that was interesting to see. It's like, The things people try in StarCraft.
It's a game good for creative possibilities.
So Reaper out for FanTaSy. SpeCial got his own Reaper out, but keeping it up. Now, FanTaSy's coming on in. He's actually made a Marine. He's got his SCV and a Reaper, so he's actually going to try and break this ramp of SpeCial, who's gone for the faster expansion. And SpeCial may actually have this delayed here. He will from the seam of it. And oh my gosh, FanTaSy throwing up a bunker.
Oh. With the bunker, Reaper can't go down there and do anything. There's a Hellion.
Yeah,
mixing
SpeCial
in there
really
too.
just needs to finish this up. Now we're going to see these players micro. SpeCial's taken this very serious, which is good to see. He's even bringing up a few extra SCVs to aid in this fight. FanTaSy, got to be careful. Doesn't want to lose everything. SpeCial, though, fantastic control, by the way, keeping his Reaper, keeping his Hellion alive. FanTaSy wants to try and get those units, but trades on out. And oh my god, is FanTaSy going to make this work? I mean... He trades out with a few
one Hellion not that great against 2 Marines, and looks like he stopped sending reinforcing units down there, so SpeCial did manage to hold.
Yeah, units lost, it's pretty equal. That's just an interesting aggressive play from FanTaSy. Just once again going for that, but he has his own CC up. Worker count's pretty equal. SpeCial has to float his over since it wasn't quite on location. And we'll see how the rest of this game goes. Both these players getting their extra gas, tanks, ravens, and sort of when you're just on the factory and starport production as Terran, that's when you want to have more of the gas. When you're producing bio later, not so much, but...
Yep, Marines are cheap. So SpeCial is well defended with the Marines across that top of that ramp there. There's no way you're going to get through that with and the number of Hellions that are out for FanTaSy. So FanTaSy just going into some Cyclone play. He's got his own second base, happily running, happily double pumping SCVs, and a Raven of his own is getting begun here too.
I just got an alert on my phone. Apparently there's now a wind warning. A little bit late, but, you know.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up, Internet.
All right. Now, both these players just working away on their 1-1-1 production facilities. So, I mean, things are pretty equal at this point. Both these guys making Ravens. SpeCial will have 2, whereas FanTaSy is just getting out his 3rd. And there we go, FanTaSy getting up his 3rd command center.
Yep, just planning on going for, you know, regular old macro style TvT here. No 2 base all-time attacks coming in. A bit of an attempt here from SpeCial, or yeah, from SpeCial to scout a bit, but that gets shut down pretty quick. Did it get scouted?
The 3rd, yeah.
Nice.
And in response, throws up his own.
So yeah, both players are pretty content just to go for that quick 3-base to 3-base play. Which can get pretty insane in TvT. A lot of dropping, a lot of tank lines, a lot of huge battles in the middle of the map. The tanks, yeah, careful with that, FanTaSy. Don't wander into tank range. Not something you want to do. Even your Cyclones, though, are pretty good, right? With a lock-on ability, you got to get in range close enough to lock on, and then you're taking tank fire the whole time.
Oh,
meanwhile, auto
gosh.
turret harass. He's going to get that He does. He's going to get the reactor. Okay, so slowing down Viking production is pretty good.
That's interesting. That's real interesting. Huh. I mean, maybe if you went for SCVs, so that choice for SpeCial is just really curious. Like, just picking off the reactor, maybe he could have got a few SCVs, but oh, he could be losing his Ravens as a result of this. One of them gets locked on and gets picked off. And now we're seeing FanTaSy put the aggression onto SpeCial. SpeCial actually made an extra Raven, so he's got 3 in total. FanTaSy, however, with more energy on his. We'll see if he's able to push into his opponent or not. Keep in mind, both these guys have 3rd CCs behind this, so they're both powering up. FanTaSy, however, does have much faster 1-1 upgrades. SpeCial, no sign of starting his, despite going to be playing bio.
Yeah, definitely want to get those things started if you're playing a mirror matchup, especially. Trying to get in here, losing Ravens. No, almost losing Ravens, but
Oh,
keeping them
that's
most alive.
actually
Pretty good control.
so important.
Really should repair those up. I'm not sure if he is, but repairing the tanks, they're the priority apparently. Maybe the Ravens will get some delicious repairing later. So, yep, there's your third base by SpeCial, landing there in the traditional third base location. The repair is coming in on the Ravens' third base. Whoa, just kidding. FanTaSy going to try to shut that sucker down. And SpeCial trying to sneak around the other way to maybe head that off. More Vikings
FanTaSy
here in the sky for SpeCial, so he owns the air. Raven taking some shots down.
Oh, wow, look at this. SpeCial with so many tanks is wanting to crash through here, and it looks like he will be able to clean this up. Can FanTaSy pick off one or two more of the tanks? He does. But in the end, SpeCial does manage to clean this up. So both these players...
And SpeCial's up double in army supply, 40-20 versus FanTaSy. FanTaSy is trying to get some additional tanks up, trying to defend this third base, but I really only see three Marines and a tank.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
a
not
lot
going to
of
be
work
enough.
for 3 Marines to do, and SpeCial with air control, this could actually be very dangerous for the Red Terran player. FanTaSy starting up a fourth base while this is going on, but SpeCial's looking to choke him out, and just once there's tanks and superior air control, you have to take an engagement into it, otherwise you will just be choked out and die. So FanTaSy has got to, like, the next few actions he makes are going to be so important, and SpeCial just inching forward with his tanks now.
Yeah, I'm watching the tank on the high ground there for FanTaSy. It's not quite in range of the tanks on the low ground and vice versa, even with the additional spotting performed by those Vikings. So SpeCial isn't firing on anything right now, but like you said, you really just can't let a Terran sit up.
This is going to be absolutely
she could set up
massive.
Oh, forcing the tank back, just zoning it out a little bit.
Look at this, though. Tank on the high ground for FanTaSy does manage to clean out one of SpeCial's, but, oh, actually gets another one, so that's going pretty well for FanTaSy, despite not having air control. Now, eventually he does have to clean this up, though. He's got his 1-1, and there's not that much here for SpeCial, so he's going to try and break this with his Marines, pulling a few SCVs into this, and gets a pretty good surround with the Marines, so he will shut this army of SpeCial down, and is now able to pursue these units. Wants to get those Ravens, probably. Does he manage to do so? He's chasing them. Those auto turrets are picking off.
Gets one.
Yeah, gets one. Costs him actually a fair few Marines, but I mean, FanTaSy does manage to hold on, and keep in mind, he did get up that 4th command center.
Yeah, that's going to be huge economically for him, but way to break that. Way to break that contain that SpeCial tried to set up. Resupply now favors FanTaSy. SpeCial has a better economy, but doesn't have that 4th base, as you mentioned previously. And number one, we talked about,
wow.
What do
SpeCial
you have to defend?
Just starting Combat Shield. I never noticed that.
That's going to be a problem. Combat Shield has been done for
problem.
FanTaSy forever.
Yeah, Marines versus non-Combat Shield Marines. It's a big deal. Now, FanTaSy just getting set up on this 3rd base. No tanks were in position of SpeCial to dissuade this, and suddenly, yeah, GG. FanTaSy ties it up.
Woo, the counterattack. Breaking the siege attempt and counterattacking his way across the map. Nice job by FanTaSy getting the 1-1 tie in this best of 7.
Next map will be Kairos Junction. And, yeah, like, FanTaSy just making that hold and counterattacking. SpeCial really committed to that attack, but not able to make it happen. Good break by FanTaSy.
Yeah, he had to sacrifice some SCVs to do it, but he recognized that if he didn't, he was going to be in a lot of trouble in the long run. So he took the hit, pushed out, got it done, and then the counterattack was massive. Well done. It's like we have a Marine SC2 there in chat saying, wait, what? That was interesting. Yeah, the counterattack was just too strong. SpeCial, perhaps SCing a little bit too hard back home, getting that worker count up a little bit higher than it could be. Wasn't not prepared for the counterattack, did not know quite how much FanTaSy had, misjudged, and it cost him a game here. So let's hop into game number 3 on Kairos Junction. A deserty map. That should be a good one.
Yeah, a little bit like Mars in a way.
Yeah. Combat on Mars.
All right, we've got it 1-1, spawning down the bottom right-hand side of the map. He managed to tie things up. It's FanTaSy.
And spotting the top left-hand corner, the blue Terran player, it's SpeCial. So what's our proxy count?
I think just one, right?
Just the one?
There's still time,
no proxies in the last game?
Yeah, there wasn't any in the last game.
All right.
Come on, guys. I mean, the last two, like this map and Cerulean, not the best proxy maps. I think we could maybe see like a starport or something again, but no barracks is understandable. I'm not gonna blame out or freak out that they're not proxying, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not worth getting too riled up about, but you know what FanTaSy is capable of is all.
SpeCial moving out with an SCV. Looks like he may be going for just that standard Expo build again, scouting out with this SCV first, and then probably going to throw up that expansion.
Yeah, sure seems like this is a scouter, but also could be a proxy factory. I'll have to keep an eye on this guy. Shenanigans could be afoot. But no, he's coming too close into FanTaSy's base here. This is definitely just an SCV scout. I like it. I like worker scouting from Terran and Protoss, but man, Zerg is just so stubborn about this. Look at that block. Look at that block with that SCV. Get on out of there. I'm going to wall you off so you can't get in and see anything other than what you already know. And there's a Reaper on the way, so you better get on home if you don't want to die.
Yeah, SCV just really confirms
Command center
SpeCial by seeing that the extra supply depot, if a Terran has an extra supply depot and walls you out, it means they went double gas because they need that extra supply. Because they're going to be producing units quicker. Now, SpeCial, interestingly enough, he just went for the single gas, but actually got his factory up before his expansion, so bit of a build adjustment there. Now, the reason why he got out the factory quickly was because he actually cut the Reaper, so that gas, just off the single gas, went to getting that. And oh, look at this, FanTaSy comes in around, sees the two Marines, and backs on out.
It says, quick 2 Marines, eh? So SpeCial's expansion is a little tiny bit faster than FanTaSy's right now. Probably not enough to make a difference overall in this game. But yeah, FanTaSy trying to come up this ramp. I don't know about this, man. KDA charge does catch Reaper. Reaper definitely SpeCial.
That's a bit of a flashback to Bunny versus FanTaSy. When, in that last Afreeca World Finals, Bunny or FanTaSy with some incredible grenades just destroyed FanTaSy. And the thing is, SpeCial invested in these Marines, but when it comes to Hellion Reaper skirmishes, it helps having Hellions and Reapers in surplus. Now, oh, this is just fantastic catch by FanTaSy, but does he pick off these units? I mean, it's going pretty well for FanTaSy as far as trading out. So far, 1 Reaper for 2 Reapers and a Hellion.
Yeah, so far so good. SpeCial's been able to hold. He's inflicted good damage on FanTaSy as well. Resources lost here. 300 for SpeCial, 100 for FanTaSy, but enough to push back the Red Terran player for the time being. Raven on the way from SpeCial. Now just continuing with Marine Tank Medevac from FanTaSy. Nothing crazy. And the Cyclone also getting started from the Blue Terran player. So kind of like what we're seeing here. It's very Muru style. Just a little bit of one of everything here in the early game, moving into more of everything as we get into the game. Here comes the drop, though. Medevac heading on over with a tank. Is SpeCial ready for this? Army supply 17 to 11. FanTaSy doubling it up right now. All that's here to defend. What the heck is even here for SpeCial right now?
Not a
2
lot.
Marines?
Yeah, those 2 Marines are not around either, and this one Cyclone has got a lot of work to do, but fantastic pickup. Micros that Hellion up so it doesn't go down. However, the auto turret will help out a great deal. The tank destroys the Cyclone, though, and GG, SpeCial just taps out.
Dang.
Like,
so that wasn't a proxy, but it was a pretty quick attack for sure. Way to go, Fan.
Yeah, that was just FanTaSy. Just realizing SpeCial down on units after those small skirmishes, just goes for a quick kill move, and now he's got himself a lead in the series.
Yeah, so far so good from FanTaSy. Winning 2 games in a row is always. And we'll see what the responses could be from SpeCial. It really seems like he's just misjudging a little bit how much FanTaSy has at any given time. Maybe he'll scan a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll try to scout a little bit harder.
Well, there's a reason why you open with Reaper in TvT.
Yeah.
And SpeCial did not. And that's that exact reason. You just get played around. Alright, it's Blue Shift. Blue Shift is a bit of a proxy map. Do we see a proxy?
Yes. Definitive yes.
FanTaSy or SpeCial?
FanTaSy. He wants to close this thing fast. I feel it. He's been waiting around a lot today.
I think we'll see a double proxy. SpeCial's gotta have the mindset like, yeah, Hail Mary, let's bring it back or not. And then FanTaSy's like, let's try and pull a quick one on him. Who knows? We'll see. I think double proxy.
Okay, I'm down.
Let's see. All right.
I support the double prox, but I'm still saying.
Maybe we'll both be wrong. Spawning up in the top right-hand side of the map. He's got a 2-1 lead. It's FanTaSy. Fan favorite for a lot of people.
And spotting in the bottom left, let's see those Doritos in chat. It is SpeCial. Actually, I don't think you can do Doritos on Afreeca.
Does Afreeca TV have Doritos?
Unfortunately, no. They need them, though. Need some Doritos over here.
Yeah. How popular are Doritos in Korea?
I don't know. How common are American snack foods in Korea? We'd have to investigate.
They probably have, like, American stores and stuff. I have never been to Korea.
Yeah.
I would like to one day go watch the GSL.
Oh, man, that'd be so great. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel like most developed countries have decent American influence, at least availability, right?
Is that the standard for being a developed nation, having Doritos?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Even I spent some time in Africa, and even those guys have Coke. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter how developed your country is necessarily.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
Some quick gas here from SpeCial. I'm liking it. And all right, we're gonna open a Reaper here. Guess what? Nobody proxied. We were both wrong. We jinxed.
We're both. It's got to be coming. It's all building up. It's just gonna be a wave of proxies that's gonna hit us one of these games.
Never see it coming.
And we're actually seeing completely mirrored builds.
Which is kind of, I don't know, always kind of fun when a mirror matchup is entirely mirrored.
Yeah, exactly. And then it sort of just turns into chaos on like the drop of a hat. So, we'll see. Yeah, just the builds out of both these guys are really interesting. Now, Reaper on the way. For each of them, looks like SpeCial going to be wanting to get up his command center, so is FanTaSy. So basically just a safer expand build playing to the meta. FanTaSy's Reaper actually gets shot by SpeCial's first, so he's going to have to back off.
Yep, gotta run. You get that first shot first, you're gonna die, and so far good. Nobody bothering with KD8 charges at this point. SpeCial does successfully get it down. FanTaSy also has no problem. A Widow Mine on the way from SpeCial. Is that our first Widow Mine of the series? I think it is. I think we saw it in games 1, 2, or 3.
I think you are correct. Yeah, they're not so common in TvT. Just comes down to them not one-shotting workers. If they did, though, you would know that Terrans would just be dropping mines left and right. So, almost thank goodness that that is not the case. But, no, SpeCial just sort of just making this for defense. I mean, they're decent at versus Banshees at times, and then if FanTaSy does decide to poke in with his superior number of Reapers and Hellions, which he's doing, all it takes is one good mine shot, and you can be in a fantastic position. Now, FanTaSy's coming on in. We'll see if he does that split-second micro. Ooh, that Widow Mine actually gets a good connection. The mine does get picked off, but I believe that was 2 Reapers that died there for just a Widow Mine, and I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good trade.
Didn't one-shot the Reapers, but weaken them enough to where further follow-up shots did destroy them.
Yeah,
and that did force FanTaSy on home.
Yeah, FanTaSy not quite expecting that. Otherwise, maybe he could have split it off and then still continued to push. But That splash damage really helps Special out. And both these players getting up their orbital commands, just their further tech, the safety cyclone on the way for each of them.
Yep, so both players just playing pretty defensively at this point. Nobody wants to move out and risk losing anything unless they have some support of Cyclones, maybe a little bit of a Raven to scout ahead, get some stuff and get some information there too. But Liberator taking a very, very long way around here to try to set up at FanTaSy's main base based on the path that she's traveled. We'll see how many SCV kills can get. Is there anything defending inside that base? Let's go. And no, definitely not. So, yep, lock-on ability pretty great in TvT. Really can just wipe out other Cyclones, wipe out Hellions. And FanTaSy saying, nope, you can't poke on this side of the map. This is my side of the map. Thank you very much. So Liberator is set up inside FanTaSy's main, or just outside FanTaSy's main.
Yeah, Special being patient, waiting for a good opportunity, which really shows wisdom as a player because, I mean, it's fairly reasonable to expect that FanTaSy would have something to defend his main. Ironically, he doesn't, unfortunately for Special. And now we'll see. Is it going to go on in? It's moving on in now, and FanTaSy still doesn't have anything. He's busy pushing right now. Special going to see if this Liberator can get much done. And FanTaSy, as far as anti-air goes, he's got one Viking building now, but there's actually nothing else to shut down this Liberator back at home. This is actually a fantastic Liberator for the Blue Terran player.
Yeah, for SCV kills already, it's shutting down mining on half of those mineral patches easily. Worker supply definitely up for Special at this point. Liberator setting up again. Raven comes in. I mean, auto turret?
Oh, just
interference matrix going to slow it down for about 10 seconds. Which doesn't seem like it's enough, but
yeah, mining time still being denied. And this Liberator can just park up, gets another SCV. And FanTaSy taking a bit of a beating to his economy. Going into Mech behind this was part of the reason why he didn't have any Marines or anything streaming out.
Ah.
And so we are going to be seeing our first Mech play of this TvT series. FanTaSy producing a few tanks here. Special, on the other hand, is going to be sticking with the bio. He's got his third CC up. Both these players actually do. And we'll see how they go about securing it. FanTaSy continuing on with his air production. Special, on the other hand, also got out his air production. So, I mean, TvT is often can come down to whoever has the most air units for that control, particularly when one of them's playing Mech or not. But
yeah, air control is going to be massively important here. Special double pumping Vikings here. Same thing as got our scouting barracks. Just trying to see if there are any more Liberators coming in. Perhaps an arm setting up over here to kill me, but
this is the Mech flagship. This is it. It just says, yep, I'm going Mech. I don't need this barracks. Special scouts out the third base. And I don't think he really knows that it is Mech just yet. Like, I don't think he saw anything too definitive. FanTaSy continuously scanning Special. And oh, wait a second, Special's transitioning into Mech. Okay,
yeah, look at that.
Butts, everyone. This could be a long one.
Mech versus Mech on blue shift here. Army supply fairly even. Worker supply up for Special quite a bit. But Special's army looking pretty scary here. Marine tank, Viking, Raven. The style of play here. And heading on up. Not stopping for anything. FanTaSy prepared for it. It looks like he's setting up on that high ground. He's getting scanned. Rocks getting knocked down for additional attack paths for Special.
Oh,
and
the
FanTaSy
Vikings
just has a
could
little
run
bit
into each other, and they do. Special dropping the auto turrets much quicker, knocks out a lot of FanTaSy's Vikings, and when it comes down to Mech versus Mech, that is so important. And look at this, Special just rolled right on in here. And okay, FanTaSy could be in a lot of trouble. He now has to engage into all these tanks. More auto turrets being dropped for Special to defend this. FanTaSy may be winning out in the air battle though, which is actually so important. Going to be able to clean up these tanks, but FanTaSy's third base has been lifted off. He lost a lot of SCVs. Will he be able to clean this up? But oh, Special comes on in and secures the air control. And FanTaSy, suddenly he's got these tanks set up, cutting off his bases. And Special with a decisive
yeah, third
attack.
base is trying to land that third base back in there, but I don't know if that's a great idea, man. There are tanks within spitting distance of that third. More units run up. Army supply definitely favoring Special. More reinforcements coming on in. That Cyclone is doing work, man.
Those tanks getting some decent shots off, but FanTaSy still needs to be able to break this. I think he may just need to unsiege his tanks, bring them all, and go for it. Because Special doesn't have too much here. He's got some tanks set up at the back, but he really just needs to clean up these 2 siege tanks.
Oh. Free Liberator. The heck was that? Come on, FanTaSy, you got this.
I think he was probably hoping that Special didn't have enough AA to kill it quickly. Now, FanTaSy tries to break this, but he didn't move in with any of his tanks, really. He now brings in some more, but going about this in a bit of a disjointed manner. So Special taking a better trade than he really should have been allowed. The 3rd base for FanTaSy not mining much. Special getting up his 4th base while this is going on. Actually an orbital. That is a greedy Terran right there, and Special is really confident. Rolling in with more of his tanks. Interference Matrix to try and pick off one of these from the sequence. Maybe overextending a little bit, but still able to keep this air control.
Well, maybe it's not, you know, greedy, but he just knows that having a planetary fortress doesn't help versus Mech anyway.
Well, Hellion run-bys. I don't know.
Nah, that's a bigger problem. Good call. Yeah, Special keeps walking tanks up here and losing them. That tank on the high ground doesn't work for FanTaSy. He's got killed.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, FanTaSy's hanging on. And there we go. Liberator harassment at Special's 4th base, but the economy is just so much better for Special. And, oh, even these Vikings landing in the main base, killing off a few SCVs. Maybe going to be going towards the 3rd base or something like that now. And, oh, Special taking a bit of that Hellion harassment now. Gotta run the SCVs.
And exactly like you called. Well done there. Gotta bring your own blue flame Hellions up here to clean it out. Didn't lose too much in the end, just 4 SCVs. Should be okay. Yeah,
Special's still got a pretty good lead, however. A meching player is not dead until they are out of the game, usually, as their mech is it's similar to the style of a cockroach. Now, looks like FanTaSy actually catching a few of Special's Vikings. This is very nice because it does come down to that air versus air fight. And hello?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. Now, it's like FanTaSy landing his Vikings right now. Special going for a bit of a Hellion run, but is he going to get on in and get too much? Sets up on one of the tanks, transforms these Hellbats. Is he going to be able to nab up this tank? Trades out a few Hellbats to get a tank. I mean, questionable trade. But he does still have that superior economy, so he can't afford to make some of those trades now. FanTaSy realizing that contesting with a superior economy, as far as air versus air goes, probably not going to work out, so he's really focusing on his Cyclone production and actually catches a lot of Special's Vikings that are out here. So that's going pretty decent for it now. Special, though, rolling up with his mech army. Annihilates some of those Cyclones. And tanks are
he's just consistently bringing in Vikings consistently here. 6, 7 tanks at the front now here for Special. Liberator's going to try to set up and shut this down. There is a Viking, but the Cyclones try to take it out and they couldn't do it. Tanks getting out of the circles as best they can, but actually anti-air mode there on that Liberator to take it down. More Vikings cruising on it. Liberator's getting picked out of the sky, but they're shoving the tanks away for the time being. Tanks setting up in range in the natural base. Again, another Liberator here gets a shot off before he gets picked out. Natural base is in a ton of trouble. At 51 to 89 workers, FanTaSy is counterattacking with some Hellions going for that run by, but his natural base is die here very soon, and I just don't see how he comes back from this.
Yeah, these Hellions are going to start absolutely just shredding some of these SCVs on Special side of the map, but getting economic damage when there's a massive army on your door that you have to deal with, it's doesn't really help you out. GG Special ties things up 2-2. We're having a close series here so far.
Indeed we are. Great job by Special. 2-2. Looking good, and no proxies at all in that last game. And I don't know, I'm not feeling like it is in this one either. Both players pretty confident in their abilities to do what they need to do without the macro. FanTaSy can look at a couple things that he did wrong in that last game and just kind of try to clean it up. And I'll turn my camera back on.
Okay. I had the wrong map there. It is Port Alexander. gonna be the next map.
Hop into the right map there. Always seems like a good idea. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us today. It's been a bit of a somewhat of a rocky cast, but we're on smooth sailing now. Thanks for hanging out as we cast this best of 5 between FanTaSy and SpeCial. So far tied up 2-2. A Mexican Terran player holding his own very well against FanTaSy. And
Yeah,
really, I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to come out on top here.
This Korean versus foreigner match. Always exciting to watch. Just making sure that both these players are ready, then we can get on into it. All right, both these guys are ready. Keeping in mind, FanTaSy was the previous Afreeca World Champion, wanting to make it a double. He would join the likes of Bunny, Keen, Parting, and Soul. But everyone still has a long way to go to win as many as a Laser, who has won 6, followed by Solar, who has won 5. So, we'll see. But I mean, getting another one, that's how you start that streak. So spawning down the bottom right-hand side of the map, it's FanTaSy.
And spawning in the top left, a blue Terran player, SpeCial.
No proxy racks or anything. Port Alexander, not a crazy proxy map in that regard. And these guys seem just to be very content playing straight up, showing a lot of different styles and such. Both of them deciding to go Mech on Blue Shift. And Blue Shift is a fairly good Mech map as far as everything's considered, despite it being small. So that's always good to see these players changing things up. FanTaSy moving out with an SCV. I wonder if this is just a scout, as SpeCial has been scouting out in the previous games. At FanTaSy, he's usually the one proxying, so he's not too worried about scouting, but this game he is a little bit concerned, checking things out, making sure that everything's fine.
Yeah, I really can't blame anybody who's worried about Proxy versus either of these Terrans and decides to scout for it. So, good on you, FanTaSy. You didn't find anything, but that's information in and of itself. So both players opening up a Reaper. As you said at TvT, you just need to open up that Reaper or bad things will happen to you in the long run. And both players are going to go ahead and expand behind it. SpeCial's goes down virtually at the same time as FanTaSy's.
Yeah, now these guys pretty much on par as everything goes in this build. And in that last game, I mean, FanTaSy, he went for a bit of that early poke. SpeCial changed things up, gone for the Widow Mine. So it's very tough to say what these guys will do this game, but yeah. Everything's just mirrored. There's not too much to talk about at this point. But we do have a slight difference. A tech lab.
Hey.
That's something.
Riveting stuff.
It truly is. Now, looks like SpeCial getting this tech lab so he can have his starport. There's been no lack of Ravens in these games. And FanTaSy actually going for quick double Hellion, then getting up his own starport. Not on a tech lab or anything like that, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's planning to do with this. But SpeCial once again going for a Widow Mine, having that as a defensive tool. And FanTaSy producing these Hellions. I do love watching FanTaSy play in the early game just because like he does go for those sort of like crazy aggressive plays. And just being like, I have one more Hellion than you, I'm going to engage. Or even, I have one less Hellion than you, I'm going to engage anyway. Things like that makes it fun to watch. Now, we're seeing the builds change up here a little bit. FanTaSy getting out a Raven, whereas SpeCial is going for a Cloak Banshee. I mean, he won game number 1 in very convincing fashion, really due to his Banshee.
Right, but the ring counters it so hard is the problem for Special.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that's why it's always a risk to go for a Banshee in TvT. FanTaSy coming on in with his Hellions, avoids that Widowmine that time, and I believe he definitely sees it. So yeah, baiting in and out of that. Actually picks off the Reaper, though. I mean, he's tempted.
Yeah, look at him just dodging in and out. Attracting that Widowmine tracker and then just getting out before it actually fires. That's hard to do, to play with it like that, but FanTaSy's doing pretty well.
Oh, Special coming out. Picks off a Hellion and a Reaper. Nicely done. FanTaSy, though, just playing with fire. Oh my gosh.
That last one especially was very close, but it keeps picking off Marines.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
How does he do that? Now, here comes in the Raven, or the Banshee, though, for Special, but there's a Raven and a Cyclone here, and that's really the...
Raven, Cyclone, pretty good.
Yeah, that's what Banshees have nightmares about. However, this Banshee did manage to bypass those units, so FanTaSy does have to run the SCVs. That usually means there's going to be at least a few guaranteed kills, 2 going down so far, and it looks like that Banshee going to go hide out at the back. And we'll be safe, as there's no Viking out just yet. And FanTaSy being pushed back on this front as well. Another Banshee's coming on in. FanTaSy, though, getting up a turret at his natural just to be safe.
Raven goes back to check. Hey, what's over here? Oh, that's right, that guy.
This Banshee gets on in towards the natural. That turret will finish up just in time, though. Banshee does manage to escape, just barely.
Yeah, that was close. It was really close stuff there. But expanding again here is Special Command Center, third Command Center on the way for Blue Terran player. FanTaSy doing no such thing. I don't see a sign of a third from him, whether on the ground or inside the main base or the natural. So if Special can get that third up, that's going to be huge for him economically in the long-term aspects of this game. And in the meantime, just working on Raven production, getting some Vikings out as FanTaSy, getting upgrades for his bio, and I don't know, it looks like Special's getting no upgrades at all for his, as soon as I say that he goes 1-1 for his bio, so never mind, we're going to get some Marines out of him anyway.
Yeah, FanTaSy, though, he does have his +1 a lot quicker. Got his stim pack going to be done, so all this is building up for FanTaSy is basically to be putting on the earlier aggression. We've seen no third command center out of him. He's going to have the much quicker stim pack, much quicker +1, so he's going to be trying to make something happen. Cleans out that Widowmine there that killed off one of his Hellions, but can Special hold on now is the question. He's got 2 Ravens in his main base, though, a fantastic defensive tool, and tanks up at the front, so he's really got all the things to make for a defense, but FanTaSy is going to try and find his way around that.
Marine sacrifices himself to scout to see exactly where the Terran player is coming in. Special reposition his tanks on the top of the ramp spread.
Yeah, FanTaSy does have his own Raven, though, and I mean, if he disables the tanks, maybe he can go for it. But as far as just like trying to drop or something, if Special's on point, it's very risky to do when there's Ravens and Vikings hanging around. Looks like a Banshee came on in, got a few more SCV kills, but gets cleaned on up.
And FanTaSy again just trying to find the door, trying to find a way in here to Special to put some pressure on the Blue Terran player, but so far not happening. 63 to 47 workers. Special has the lead. Army supply is higher for FanTaSy, but Special is defending pretty well here. That said, FanTaSy coming up around that top side. He's got some drops. He's going to try to sneak in.
No, the interference matrix.
Oh, the interference matrix. And the Vikings, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the one tank gets one shot up off everything else being cleaned up from the scheme of things, and that is why dropping into someone who's got Ravens and Vikings is very risky. And now FanTaSy's down on supply, down on workers, down on upgrades. He's getting up his third base. Special has his own done, but after cleaning up that drop, he's confident enough to move out and to secure it. And now FanTaSy's got to play from behind. Special trying to nab up FanTaSy's Raven, does get it. That is a very nice pick off for him. He's got the superior number of air units, as FanTaSy has 1 Viking. And as a result, Special, he's just Got himself a very nice position for now. FanTaSy, though, trying to be a pain, delay taking of this third base, as he actually loads up for a drop, but FanTaSy quickly nopes out of that once he gets scanned. But of course, going for it anyway. He's like, all right, I'll try and pull a quick one on you, but SpeCial anticipates this, and he anticipate this. Got his Vikings just right in position. Looks like FanTaSy catching a drop of SpeCial.
Oh, there's that top drop coming in. Nope, looking out, recognizing the threat those two Ravens and multiple Vikings are. Not going to happen. Army supply for SpeCial is way up. Worker supply is way up. Resources lost is double for FanTaSy right now. After that last attack, the resources lost just jumped. For FanTaSy, took so much damage from it. He's trying to find his way back into this game by using drop. SpeCial is defending on every front. He sees it coming. Just doing so well here. Third base landed 70 workers to 59 for FanTaSy, and I'm not sure what FanTaSy can do to get back into this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to be trying another big drop. That's definitely one way to make it happen, but especially he's got a turret up, got a tank up at his natural, and is this where FanTaSy's just going to be heading on in, or is he going to try and go into the main base? Either way, he's giving it a bit of a Hail Mary. He scans, he's now moving in, boosting past that turret, going to try and get into SpeCial's main base. SpeCial is frantically trying to get into position. Marines are going to be stimming forward right on in, and does FanTaSy have enough time to get his tanks up to push these Marines back? Doesn't look like it as anti-armor missile interference matrix go down, and FanTaSy's army, I'm not sure it's going to just be enough here.
No, definitely not. When it gets interfered with in eyes, that tank did some good work, but again, it's 88-54 army supply. SpeCial is able to stand through that attack, wipe out FanTaSy has. FanTaSy needs to re-engage again here, but it's just almost full total army supply right now. SpeCial is sitting here with how many? Where's my units tab? There it is, with 10 tanks to 4. For FanTaSy, that tank count is a huge deal, and here comes SpeCial moving out with a bit of a drop, a little bit close to FanTaSy's army.
Drop actually going to get caught. This is exactly what FanTaSy needs. 2, 3. Does he get 4? 4 full medivacs. Oh my gosh.
That was
However,
it.
another
Remember
drop
when I said I don't know what he can do? Oh, that was huge though. So third base is toast for FanTaSy, but wiped out a huge portion of SpeCial's army.
Yeah, and does SpeCial actually get the third? Yes, he does. Oh, that is terrible for FanTaSy. Oh yeah, losing that is not good at all for FanTaSy. Like, getting that drop was absolutely huge for him. Those 4 full medivacs, but then SpeCial still managing to make a nice play happen, and FanTaSy losing that command center, it hurts a lot.
All right, well, FanTaSy squeezing around the edge of that sensor tower of SpeCial's, and then just dive bombing right on into it here. Going into the third, hoping to kill SpeCial's third in retaliation for losing hit. The tank count here is 3. It's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 tanks now here for SpeCial in defense against 4 that FanTaSy is able to bring up here. The upgrades are up. They are favoring FanTaSy. He's got plus 2, 2, 2. Just now finishing. 2, 2 is on the way here from SpeCial. Not quite yet. But FanTaSy does not like what he sees and pulls back just a bit.
Yeah, oh my. Now, SpeCial going to be going for another drop into the main base of FanTaSy, who, by the way, since he's been being so aggressive, hasn't been really focused on defense at all this game, as he simply couldn't afford it. Now, FanTaSy still being aggressive on the main front, but going to have to clean up this drop. He's got a tank popping out, got some other units popping out. SpeCial not microing this drop, so does just have to get on out of there, and he does boost away. Now,
into the third.
Yeah, SpeCial's got his plus 2 attack done. FanTaSy will still have an upgrade advantage, and I mean, SpeCial's maxed out. FanTaSy's starting to get there, but I mean, if SpeCial fights now, he does have a supply lead. Tanks are firing away on each other, and there's also the one Raven, which is actually going to be huge for SpeCial if an anti-armor missile goes down.
Vikings trying to carefully pick off medevacs there. Medevacs positioning themselves behind the Marines so they can stay alive. An old-fashioned Marine tank line here. And someone's got to go for it at some point. It's usually how this works. More medics cruising on in. Marines going to support those as well. Vikings dance back. Marines do not dance back and pay the price for it. Yeah, just both players being really cautious, sitting here on their They're 4 bases now, as they both have a 4th base up, mirroring each other over there. 3-3s on the way. Vehicle weapons level 1 finishing up for SpeCial now. And a bit of a doom drop here.
Oh, FanTaSy sees that SpeCial was going for a drop and actually commits to wipe out all of SpeCial's tanks with minimal losses. So that's actually such a quick move by FanTaSy. SpeCial, however, dropping at the 3rd base location since he can't seem to get into the main, but FanTaSy seems to be pulling SpeCial apart as his army has just been dismantled. First the tanks, now this drop that's going to try and get into the main base, but gets quickly rejected. And I mean, I think that went pretty well as far as trades go for FanTaSy. Yeah, he lost a few workers, and his 3rd base mining was disrupted, but that was a lot of supply lost for SpeCial. FanTaSy's army, I mean, he's equal on army supply, and all it takes is one good fight to win a game of StarCraft. So FanTaSy is now moving forward. He's got his tanks. He's setting his sights on towards the 4th base of SpeCial. SpeCial's got tanks on the high ground, but that one's going to fall. It's only just the one, and FanTaSy suddenly able to get close towards this 4th base. And if he can get tanks set up on that, he can start choking it out and really force SpeCial's hand into a bad engagement, and a few more tanks of SpeCial are getting nabbed up.
The 3rd base of FanTaSy getting rocked a little bit here too, losing a ton of SCVs. 3rd base getting focused down. Can it get saved? It is getting target fired and repaired by SCVs at the same time. SpeCial actually dealing with the response pretty well, while his own 4th base is getting shelled here. Getting on in versus those tanks, pushing on out.
He's actually evacuating and abandons the base, loses 14 SCVs and a base. This game is getting scrappy fast. Another drop is moving in for SpeCial. Does FanTaSy have enough to hold on? Looks like he does. Able to shut down the counterattack of SpeCial. And FanTaSy still with his strong army loads up into his medivac. SpeCial sees this though. But does he react? FanTaSy busy pushing in towards the front of SpeCial, and SpeCial's army is actually out of position. FanTaSy's going for a huge drop that's got a absolute ton of tanks in here, and is SpeCial going to be in position quick enough? FanTaSy has an upgrade advantage, 3-3 to 3-2. SpeCial has 1 tank in the main base. Is it going to be enough to defend? FanTaSy just unloads right away. The second he hits that base, pops off the tank. He's now on SpeCial's production, eating a lot of his own tank shots there, but he quickly retreats to his own tanks, and now suddenly SpeCial has to clean this up. But he's actually just going for a counterattack right now. The 3rd base of FanTaSy once again being attacked.
Oh, those SCVs. Down to 24 workers now for FanTaSy, and he loses his 3rd base. But he is expanding again, and he is setting up shop inside of SpeCial's main. After the production, taking down barracks, taking down SCVs that are long distance mining. Unfortunately for them, it's 88 to 80 army supply. SpeCial has a lead there. He also has a 30 worker lead. FanTaSy has more bases. SpeCial moving into FanTaSy's 4th. Up at the right position
and
here.
It was an orbital, so that planetary can't just be repaired since, you know, it's not one. And FanTaSy, I mean, he's been going for all these great trades and whatnot, just hitting SpeCial when he was getting hit, but he may be running out of steam now. He lost his 3rd, he lost his 4th. Fortunately for him, he started a 5th as this was going on, but his economy is still much weaker than that of SpeCial, and he probably wants just to try and get one quick engagement or something. He's now moving in with his units, but these medivacs, they're kind of on their own here. Are they going to be able to unload, or are they going to get caught? FanTaSy's moving by, but there's lots of Marines in position. All these units are going to be getting picked off. It looks like FanTaSy's actually trading out pretty decently with his medivac support. He's also got a lot more units moving in from the south, as army supply is still relatively even. But FanTaSy does need to make something happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he is mining from this base, which is real good for him with his 25 SCVs to 53 that SpeCial is working with. SpeCial trying to expand. No, army over there out of the way. He's mining effectively from 1 base right now. His main is not doing anything. His natural is entirely mined out. FanTaSy's income here is higher than SpeCial's, but not by a whole lot. And FanTaSy just setting up to dive on into that 3rd base.
Yeah, I mean, SpeCial, he's got the worker count by far, but we see how oversaturated this base is. SpeCial doesn't really have a fresh base to mine from. He scans the one good base for FanTaSy, so if he can shut that down, it'll be massive. FanTaSy's sending some units down here that looks like it's just to protect this base because he knows how important it is, and SpeCial's now moving across with some more of his units. This game is so scrappy. Now, FanTaSy... Ooh, looks like he lost a medivac there. I think there might have been something in it. Pardon me for missing that, but I mean, here comes in SpeCial with this drop. Tanks are set up, gonna annihilate those Marines.
But there's a drop heading on into the main, dropping where the 3rd used to be, picking up a couple of reinforcing Marines there. Not too bad from SpeCial. Still not able to replace that fourth base right now. Looks like he is going to try to float it on in over here at the 9 o'clock position.
Yeah, SpeCial, I mean, if he can secure a base and mine from it, that's going to be so important for him. His economy will surge up thanks to his superior SCV count. FanTaSy also floating over one of his last remaining orbitals just to get as much mining as he can going. And
Dynasty dropping into the main there. That gets shut down eventually.
Oh, I like this from SpeCial. He's made a fair few Ravens since he's got so much gas. But, oh, FanTaSy taking a bit of a bad engagement. Joining up with the rest of his tanks and whatnot. Is SpeCial going to be baited into the fire?
A little bit. Not too bad, though. But yeah, I mean, 94 to 62 armor supply. SpeCial is just pulling further and further ahead. He's actually making tanks. FanTaSy's making Marines right now. Yeah, this game is bananas. Liberator setting up is going to get some shots off on a tank. Reinforcements coming in from FanTaSy right now. Free tank. No!
Oh,
what?
SpeCial not quite paying attention there. That tank, though, he's in over his head as he gets picked
He
off.
really wants to die.
FanTaSy stepping forward, though, eating so many tank shots. Oh, that was absolutely huge. And if we just look at the supply, FanTaSy may be running out of steam, unloading on these tanks at SpeCial's third, but doesn't look like he has enough. He's losing his own extra base, and GG gets called. SpeCial takes the 3-2 lead in a crazy TvT.
That was an excellent, excellent TvT. A lot of lost stuff on both players. Good upgrades. Tons of tank fire. Good drops. Ravens all over the place. Both players losing multiple bases. I mean, that's all you can really ask for in a TvT.
Yeah, the next map's going to be Parasite. So, SpeCial managed to put himself on game point. Like, as far as effort goes, though, boy, was FanTaSy ever trying that game. Like, he was behind for a long time in that game, and it was looking a bit dicey for SpeCial there at times. But in the end, he managed to close it out. Very well played.
Indeed. GG for SpeCial. All right, so FanTaSy is facing the end of his time here. Afreeca World 30. Got to win 2 more games to go home the winner. Or if he loses, he goes home in second place, which is not bad considering the talent present. He's got to be ready.
Okay. We'll get on into the next game. Thanks so much to everyone that's been tuning in. Hope you guys have been enjoying this. At this point, late night StarCraft for those of you that are from North America. I guess if you're European, what are you doing up this early? And if you're Korean, I hope you're having a good afternoon. Now, spawning down the bottom right-hand side of the map, he's found himself down 2 to 3. It's FanTaSy, the red Terran player.
2 to 3. And in the top left-hand corner, it's the blue Terran player, SpeCial.
I mean, color me pleasantly surprised by the lack of proxies in this series. It's just been a lot of straight-up play, straight-up aggression. I mean, I guess after all, we aren't watching Maru versus TY. These two players seem to be very content to go the distance. Just, oh man, that last TvT was so crazy with FanTaSy just trying to hit SpeCial everywhere while also trying to keep it together, and those guys were just punching each other in the face, man. Like, they were going blow for blow.
They were. Prize fight for sure. Alright, so our proxy count is terribly low, LaughNgamez. We are just not doing well with that at all.
Yeah,
that said, no, it's a scouting CV. For a second there, I was like, is it going to be a proxy? But no.
Yep, SpeCial just scouting everything out. Getting up his command center, that seems to be what he likes to do with his SCV. Scout around, make sure it's clear, and then throw up the CC.
And yeah, no proxy shenanigans at all. That's okay. I guess we can live with it. Both players opening up Reaper. Factory done for fantasy specials is lagging a little bit behind here, but he is working on a Hellion. Or fantasy is working on a Hellion immediately now.
Yeah, I mean, Fantasy likes his earlier aggressive plays, even if it delays his CC a little bit, even on a map as large as Parasite, sticking to his sort of style. And oh, look at that Reaper is special.
It's a rave.
You can hardly tell that's a Reaper. It's just more of a blue and fiery blob. Now, Fantasy now moving across the map. Since he does go for that factory much quicker, he's got the luxury of pushing out because he's got the faster production, of course. And now we'll see how SpeCial going to be prepared for this. He's got one Hellion moving down, one Hellion and one Reaper joining up with a few Marines, but Fantasy's been content to micro around this, and we'll see if he can get what he needs. Weakens the Reaper, but both of these guys' Reaper's actually injured. However, they'll both heal up.
Yeah, it's the dance. It is the Hellion Reaper dance here. A couple more Hellions come in. Defender's advantage really helping SpeCial out here. But additional units coming in, and that might be enough to force Fantasy back, turn him into the defender. Losing the Reaper, it's kind of a big deal. KDA charge not available anymore.
Yep, Reaper for Reaper. So much work for just not a ton happening. Just little skirmishes and trades, but I mean, TvTs are sometimes won this way, so you got to give it to Fantasy for trying. However, SpeCial, he's just been a rock with his defense, and now he's actually moving out with a bit of a counter drop. And this is a bit of a odd timed drop, dare I say, but it might just.
Oh, scouted.
Oh yeah, actually, looks like that SCV was probably moving forward to repair some Hellions. But oh, SpeCial moving forward with his own Hellions, able to get on top of Fantasy's.
Tries to get that Reaper, does take it down.
Now, Fantasy moving out with his own drop, but he lost some of his Hellions and whatnot. He's pushing into the natural base of SpeCial. He's going to have some Marines, a tank. Meanwhile, SpeCial going for his own Hellion run-by and his own drop at the natural of Fantasy. We'll see who's able to get the most damage. There's a bit more muscle to Fantasy's push right now.
Yeah, the natural base for SpeCial's in a lot of trouble, whereas I don't feel like Fantasy's in all that much trouble. He's got a Cyclone out. Cyclone doing really well against these Hellions. SCV actually coming into mind at the natural base. Not a good place for you, my friend. Coming in with a lot of SCVs. That tank fire, though. Oh, gosh, that hurt.
And just a few Marines putting out a lot of damage. Fantasy ties it up. SpeCial falls. Just so crazy.
Wow, we're going best of 7, game 7. Everybody, holy cannoli. Don't see these very often, I don't think. Did we go to game 7 in the last Afreeca World?
No, Fantasy destroyed everyone. But SpeCial proven to be a very formidable challenge.
Seriously, so far so good from both of these players. Let's see what our final map is going to be. We'll get you in here for some game 7 shenanigans.
Yes, we do have to figure out what the last map is. Automaton's been played, Cerulean, Kairos, Blue Shift, Parasite, Stasis. Stasis.
Everybody's favorite map.
Yeah, for TvT, a lot of choke points. Then, of course, the air blockers making things a bit weird.
Yep, good places to set up Liberators, though, that's for sure.
Getting everyone on into the lobby.
Alright. So I'm checking out our Discord call.
Yeah.
You can, like, debug it within Discord?
I don't know. Yeah, guys, I do apologize about the whole technical issues, but, like, it's either issues like this can be completely random and take, like, ages to fix at times. So, like, I'm sure we could sit down for, like, an hour and try and debug it, but it's either we delay the tournament or we have some audio issues at times, which is unfortunate. But seeing as how things were already delayed a little bit with the whole Sue thing and then me dropping power and whatnot, I think it's good just to wrap up the games and whatnot. The games are good.
Agreed. We're already at 7.
Yeah, exactly. We're not gonna pause. Make everyone wait. And oh, here we go. Spawning up in the top left-hand side of the map. It's FanTaSy.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner is the red Terran player this time. It is SpeCial.
And FanTaSy. Go big or go home. Moving out with an SCV on the map.
Good golly. The Proxy in Game 7. Who would have seen that? Not me. But we got it. We got our 3rd and 4th Proxies of the series.
Yeah, now, FanTaSy. 2 proxied barracks from the seam of things. Got his 1 gas on the way special. Got his 2nd gas on the way, so he is opening up double gas, which is the natural counter to this. However, nothing's a given in StarCraft 2. I mean, we see all sorts of follow-ups to proxy builds and whatnot. Then it comes down to the individual micro. Now, FanTaSy went for a lot of proxies in last Afreeca World versus Bunny. It was rather demoralizing for any Bunny fan.
Yeah. Bunny fans showed up and were like, wait, what?
Where's Bunny? Oh, yeah, FanTaSy 3-0'd him, proxying him 3 times, I think it was. And, or no, 2 times. Anyway, it was kind of brutal. SpeCial, though, opening up a little bit safer. Just not going for something like a quick expo, which is the first step really to defending a proxy. If you don't want to scout out and hope that you find a proxy, you can always just open up safer like SpeCial is.
All right, well, let the Reapers begin. And they are beginning. 1-4. We are not at all. SpeCial's Reaper does not see it. He's heading out across the map. He'll figure it out in a couple seconds here.
Yeah, now he knows, and then he's just got to react to this. He's got another Reaper, got a Hellion on the way, but the question is, does he lose any SCVs? If so, how many? Loses 2 so far. Looks like he may lose a 3rd. FanTaSy's got to be careful and respect this, but he actually picks off another SCV, tosses a grenade as another Reaper joins up. I mean, the SCV damage is looking good so far. Nab's on 6.
Yeah, 6 is a big number there. The Hellion is really important for SpeCial to keep himself alive. Reaper on the other side of the map doing the similar stuff for SpeCial. SCV's playing the ring around the rosy game. And more SCV is going to die. Another SCV goes down. That is definitely 7 here. So far the control by FanTaSy has been pretty good. Got to pull back and wait for the health regen.
Yeah, he's killed off a fair few of SpeCial's SCVs, giving himself the worker lead, but of course pushing up a ramp into Hellions is always risky and tough. He moves up, doesn't toss any grenades just yet, focuses down one of the Hellions and gets on out, so a Reaper for a Hellion, that's a decent trade for him. And it looks like he did surround and kill off SpeCial's Reaper on his side of the map. Of course, it's very tough to micro on both fronts. SpeCial's got a cloak Banshee or on the way behind.
Looks like SpeCial's fairly well sized cloak Banshee. Of course, I say that, and suddenly he's got Reapers inside his base. Continuing to make Hellions, which is the right choice. Watching Kitty HR like a pro, because that's what he is.
Yeah, he definitely is a pro. Now, these Reapers engaging the Hellions, trading out. FanTaSy does end up having to retreat, but I mean, as the dust settles, he's got himself a 5-worker lead, a Cyclone on the way, Starport finishing up. So SpeCial's got the slightly faster tech, but is it going to be enough to overcome this? I mean, he's supply block now, which is very unfortunate for him. He's going to have that Banshee on the way. But FanTaSy getting up a tech lab, is it going to be for a Raven, do you think?
Feeling Raven. That's where my guess is.
Yeah, he made one
Poor
in
Banshee
the other
just
game.
smashing up against little air barriers like.
Losing. Imagine if they lost HP when that happened. That would be very unfortunate. But oh, okay, SpeCial working away on this barracks for FanTaSy that's scouting out. It hasn't seen the Starport,
is under attack.
but the lack of Starport also speaks volumes. Just seeing it, he's got to be on alert for this. So he's getting up an engineering bay, getting a Raven on the way. and even building another Cyclone as he gets up his command center. So, I mean, things are looking pretty good for FanTaSy so far. And look at this, he's even poking up with his Reapers. He has non-stop aggression with his individual units.
All right, KDA charges getting dodged by both players really, really well here, exploding harmlessly on the ground. And here comes the Banshee. And let's start picking off some of these SCVs, shall we? Raven Cyclone is the answer here, as we mentioned before. And there's the Raven, and there's the lock-on, and that Banshee is dead. She does end up taking 7 SCV kills with her, which is not bad.
Yeah, that's a very significant number for just one Banshee. Now, FanTaSy's turrets are finishing up. And he does have up his natural base, though, where SpeCial is just starting his, so that's a very significant lead for FanTaSy. And, I mean, SpeCial, he's up on army supply for now, but we'll see. FanTaSy, yeah, just having that CC up, having the Raven to defend anything future. And then, what does SpeCial do to come back from this point? Does he just play straight up and, I don't know, maybe throw up a 3rd CC or something pretty quick? It's tough to say.
It is. I'll just keep watching that production tab. Alright, so resources lost are pretty even. 1300 for FanTaSy, 1200 for SpeCial. Everybody kind of setting up defensively here with their tanks. Both players making Viking. We're settling into another standard. Whoop! Another little standard TvT mid game here after all the aggression in the opening couple minutes.
FanTaSy has started himself a 3rd CC. That's what he's going to do with his lead. Maybe figuring that he's not going to be able to use it to kill SpeCial, so he's just going to try and get more of an economic lead going. And, I mean, SpeCial, he's still behind in the workers, just getting up his natural base now. FanTaSy scans SpeCial, sees there's no stim or anything on the way. Just Viking and tank production is actually what SpeCial's making, which does speak that he's probably going to be going for a push, because if you have that air control in the tanks, you can make something happen, that's for sure. FanTaSy's got to be prepared for this, and he's repositioning his tanks, so he sniffs this out. Now, the air count, it's currently 3 Vikings versus 2, but 2 Ravens versus 1, and the Cyclones actually get a lock on.
Whoa, Raven taking down their auto turrets on the high ground, trying to do some stuff, but also taking some serious shots there as well. Air superiority here for SpeCial, at least for the moment. FanTaSy's hanging back with his Banshee doing some work there too. Going to Cyclone's getting a lock on a couple of those tanks. Auto turrets firing as well, trying to win the battle of the air superiority here, and it looks like SpeCial might be able to pull this thing off just barely, although FanTaSy ends up with 1 Viking remaining there and both players pulling back.
Yeah, 1 Viking and 1 tank, that's really all you need. Is SpeCial finished, though, is the question. It looks like he's going to try and push further forward. FanTaSy repairing his Viking because he knows how important it is to keep that air control alive. Even gets a Cyclone locking onto one of SpeCial's tanks and picks it off. And it looks like he may just have shut down the push of SpeCial.
Yep, sure looks like SpeCial is going to have to pull back, maybe go all the way back home. He's pretty happy to set up with a couple tanks and a couple Marines with medevac support and see what can get done. And FanTaSy is up in pretty much all measurable everythings right now as far as the numbers are concerned. Across the board. Income is fairly even, but everything else is definitely favoring the blue Terran player. He's able to set up safely on 3 bases. SpeCial's 3rd base is just now under construction. Economically, he's going to be able to take a lead here, and SpeCial's in a bit of trouble. What he needs to do is find 4 full medevacs and try to wipe those out to get back in this game.
Okay, now Stimpak on the way for FanTaSy. I mean, he was really just focused on holding off that attack. Both these players are now sitting back. I mean, especially still out on the map. He probably feels like he needs to get something done still. But FanTaSy really has everything he needs to push SpeCial back. SpeCial's getting up his 3rd base, getting his... Really just still making Vikings and tanks, actually. He's not getting anything else up, so... He's still kind of hoping on just 1 big fight that'll go his way.
Again, air superiority really, really important here right now. And it looks like FanTaSy's going to win. That's it.
Yeah,
FanTaSy
GG.
repeats.
FanTaSy, knowing, or SpeCial, knowing that it's over. I mean, he tried to make that push happen and it didn't work. And there was just such a lead for FanTaSy at that point. SpeCial just after that one fight. He was really just running out the clock to nothing, really. But no, that means we are done for Afreeca World. Number 30, guys. We've done 30 of these events now.
Yep, good round number. 30 is. Join us for 31 in a couple of weeks. Watch us both on Twitter, LaughNgamez, and Falcon Paladin. Pretty easy to find that way for more information about who will participate and when it will be exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure to check us out. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. But no, big thanks to everyone that tuned on in. I know a fair few of you guys dropped off as there was some hiccups and stuff with me losing power, with Sue not showing up, but who, by the way, just messaged me. But no, yeah, so thanks so much to everyone for tuning on in. Do you have anything else to add before we close out?
Well, basically a robot, but you can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Falcon Paladin. And LaughNgamez, I believe, is also in all of those formats.
Yes, if you're a fan of robots, go check out Falcon Paladin. Unfortunately, there were those issues today, but thanks so much to anyone who did tune in. The games were good, that's for sure. And it is a late one, so we're going to hop off here. And thanks so much for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.